So first, when you want to write a business plan or you want to start a business, it is all centered around one simple component that is called in as the idea. Every business has to have an idea. The idea becomes the core point on which you are trying to solve a problem, and the same way the generation of revenue that needs to come in, because every idea needs to generate revenue, otherwise it is not an idea at all. So let us understand how do we arrive at idea viability, and why is it important for having an idea viability. Idea which cannot generate revenue is not an idea at all, because every business has to bring in some revenue which is essential for it to scale up and to grow on. If you have already started, or if you are in the process of having finalized an idea, you might also come across a point like how does an idea come around. Usually it is a pain point which you as an individual have undergone, or you would have got it from your own sources saying yes, this idea can be used in for generation of revenue. Let us understand the idea viability in terms of the financial feasibility. So we need to have clarity in terms of what funds are required for this idea to become implementable. Now, before you take up the implementation part, you can also have clarity by writing the feasibility of the idea to understand what are the basic milestones that you need to reach in, and at what point you need to call it as fail fast. Okay. Now, when it comes to idea viability, it can be written down even before you start, or the same financial feasibility is required even when you are pitching into investors, because that will give them clarity what is the total amount that needs to be raised and various ratios that need to be answered in terms of what would be the exit strategy, what would be the first range, how much amount would be required for capex, how much would be required for your marketing and advertising, which is going to play a crucial role in customer acquisition. Now, when it comes down to an idea feasibility, it encompasses through various parameters. It's like giving clarity to your own thoughts by mapping numbers to it. Every idea looks beautiful or doable or great when it is on the paper. So you can also go ahead and say my idea is going to be the next revolutionary thing that is going to happen in the business world. Fair enough. It's a good thought to get started on, but at the same time you need to ensure that the idea is a feasible one when it comes to financial feasibility. You would have come across many products that were launched in, many services that had come into this and disappeared because they could not be viable. Yes, there are few companies wherein this viability does not work, and there are very few which you can count in on your fingers. But in an overall way, when you get started on, right from setting up a small restaurant to a software company to anything that you want to build in, it needs to have a financial feasibility. So why do we need a idea viability or a financial feasibility of the idea? There is a saying that the more time you spend on planning board is the less time that you take for implementation of it, or in otherwise you can also say the more you sweat in practice, the less you will bleed in war. So the same thing holds good for even your business entrepreneurship. So you need to have clarity when it comes down to, yes, this is my idea, and for this idea to become an executable one, these are the funds that I need. Yes, you may not have the biggest of all the funds, because we all have come to know that every business that has gone to become a big started all small. Yes, absolutely right. So when you get started on in a smaller way, you still need some funds so that you can test something called as MVP or minimum viable product. So it could also be like getting your first 10 customers and figuring out what would be the problems that you have faced in. When it comes to the feasibility component and being written only on the financial viability will give you clarity, is this doable? And the second component of it is how much funds do you need to pump in and for how long. This also gives a clarity to the investor what will be the burn rate before you become cash flow positive, or also known as break-even analysis operationally. So all these aspects of the various parameters that go into it needs to be mapped with numbers. You might have a best of a strategy saying, I'm going to release 10 ads and run a SEO campaign and whatnot. But at the same time, to run that, what kind of funds are required? Now, once the funds come in, you can start your advertising. That gets connected to the customers that you're trying to acquire in, and at the same time, what is the back-end support that your infrastructure has to provide in order to service the customers. So all these components are going to be a part of the feasibility plan. So it is not just one parameter that you work on, which you normally would have started on writing down, okay, fine, I need funds for the website, for a mobile app, and so on. But at the same time, you also need to understand something called as OPEX, that is your operational expenditures, like setting up the rentals, taking care of your technology, the upgrades that keep happening, and the salaries that you need to pay. Remember, for any business, it is the employees who come first, and then they take care of the customers. So that is where we need to understand on an overall perspective of a 360-degree approach with all the parameters coming in together to have it as, is this idea feasible? Thank you.